John 13:34. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you. You love one another. And he says it's new. Now these words become impressive when you think of when they were spoken, and they were spoken in the act of sharing the bread and wine with his disciples. So they were spoken in the very shadow of the cross coming on Jesus' life. So you might say he was approaching the great act of love, and he spoke the great words of love. He said, this is new, this is for you. Love one another as I have loved you. So they're not just words. It's not just a kind of be nice, everybody. It's like it cost him his life to say these things. So what did he mean? Love one another as I have loved you. You can see, can't you, straight away that the whole fulcrum of the sentence is on that word as. What does love mean? I mean, words change their meaning over years, don't they? And in our context, in our society, the word love could really denote the most selfish of things. Many times when people say, I love you, they're meaning, I love me and I want you to love me as well. It's like a kind of adore me on my terms. You know, it's a very huge chunk of what it is to be human, isn't it? To love someone and to be loved by them. So Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. The only way you can really get into it is by looking at the life of Jesus, because that's the context in which he insists that you expound the meaning of the word. Of course, that word was in use from the beginning of time. You know, love. In fact, in 1 John, the apostle says, the love which you had from the beginning. From the beginning, of course. So Jesus is putting a new sense on an old word. The new sense is of a love that changes everything. It's of a love that invades the world. It's a love that, maybe it's a bit like electricity, right? People knew about electricity from thousands of years before. The ancient Egyptians, I think, or was it the ancient Greeks, one of them ancient dudes, were playing with electricity as a kind of child's toy. They knew about electricity, but they just didn't harness it or use it. So maybe the thing that you had from the beginning, electricity, I show you in a brand new way. You know, they only began to harness electricity in the 19th century. Is that incredible? It's like sort of thousands of years of knowing about something, and then all of a sudden it comes in a new way. So maybe they knew about love, but then in the coming of Jesus, he said, love one another as I have loved you. He gave it a new meaning, and he died to show what that meaning was. And so he takes what is an old thing, a familiar thing, and he turns it on its head. Turns it completely around. Love that changes everything, as I have loved you. So you have to take away your old notions about what love is and start to think about what Jesus meant when he said those words. So it was an old commandment, an old thing, an old familiar concept. And he said, I command you to love one another. That's interesting, isn't it? Because really, it's not a command, it's a principle, it's a spirit. You see, a commandment is something that comes to you from the outside. You will pay your taxes. And if you don't, then you have consequences about not fulfilling the law. And the Jews had laws by the plenty. I think they had 46 categories of work, right? What constituted work, that you weren't supposed to do this on the Sabbath day. So it's all very classified. They had rules and rules and rules for everything. But the thing about rules is they come to you from the outside, like a speed limit sign. And you decide whether you're going to obey it or not. Okay? As you watch the speedo drifting upwards. They come to you from the outside and they insist that you obey them. But love comes from the inside. It's the very heart of Christianity. It comes from the inside, and you want to obey. It's a different kind of thing altogether. It's not a law, it's a principle. But that principle changed everything. You think of like Paul crossing oceans and going into, the apostles going across cultures and religions and facing persecution and death. They didn't do it because of a kind of project, like you must go into all the world and preach the gospel. That's a project. But why do you obey the project? Because of something that's changed inside. Because you have really, really discovered something wonderful. Because you have received the love of God inside yourself, and it impels you. Paul said, it constrains me. I am energized into this activity because of what Christ has done for me. It's like the fire had touched their hearts and nothing would put it out. I remember seeing a Charlton Heston film years ago with an army of ants. Do you remember that film? And the ants are coming, and the swarms of these soldier ants, and they perish in the water, and then the dead bodies of the ants form a bridge for the other ones coming on, and the relentless drive of these ants towards the city, where of course there's a beautiful girl in a bikini and Charlton Heston ready to rescue her and stuff like that. Think of that in a good way now. Think of the relentless, urgent forcing forward of one thing. The love of God made manifest in Jesus Christ. He said, love one another as I have loved you. Love that is unstoppable, that is charged with divine energy, that will not be put off. Love that is not sullied by the unworthiness of its objects. Love that just goes on loving right to the cross. He said, that's it. Start to think that way. Amen. Well, think about it. We'll come back to it. God bless you.